XDefiant is one of the most hyped FPS games to come out in a long time. Some have even gone as far as to call it the Call of Duty killer, but they could not be more wrong. Can XDefiant live up to its lofty goal that the community has set for it, or is this just another smash and grab FPS? This is the disappointing truth about the game that nobody's noticing. For the making of this COD killer, Ubisoft has left no stone unturned. They copied elements from every FPS that you know and removed everything that enough gamers complained about, including price. Yeah, no, they made the game free to play. So you're asking me, what's wrong with that, Mr. YouTube man? Well, like almost every other new FPS out there, XDefiant has players mindlessly shooting at each other with some pretty much the same premise. So let's get to the good stuff. In XDefiant, you get to play as a character from one of 5 factions. Very Apex-like if you ask me. Characters from each faction have unique abilities that turn the tides of battle. Or at least we think that's the idea. The big reveal here is that these factions are made up of characters from established Ubisoft titles, which is exciting, right? Cleaners are from The Division, and they are the masters of all things fire. Phantoms are from Ghost Recon, and they're what soldiers should look like in 2077. The OP Echelon class is from Splinter Cell. Libertats are from Far Cry 6, and DedSec is obviously from Watch Dogs. While the idea of a Ubisoft All-Stars FPS with interesting characters and on-them abilities does beat Nicki Minaj and Homelander carrying assault rifles, you do feel like Ubisoft could have taken a couple more steps to give these characters a little more oomph, a little more depth in the game that is kind of lacking. One idea that comes to mind is mixing up the guns a little to make them a lot more on-theme and authentic to each faction. In an effort to, not stray too far away from the gods, the guns in XDefiant, they're pretty standard. And after playing the game for what feels like at least 200 hours, my hierarchy is like this. Snipers greater than assault rifles, greater than LMGs, greater than shotguns. It's weird, but that's how the game goes. And don't even get me started on how unrealistic and useless some of these character-specific abilities are in a gunfight. Compared to the other factions, DedSec's abilities look redundant and somehow even more useless when playing the game.
Ultra ready.
Let's say somehow you get lucky enough to fill up and use this faction's Ultra, you're gonna be killed trying. Amazingly, DedSec and GSK with the Season 1 update are the 2 factions that are locked, and to unlock it you need a ridiculous 700,000 XP per faction. You could grind for hours to get that much XP. FYI, you usually get like 1,000 XP per game. But of course, you can also just buy this XP. What? There are microtransactions in a free-to-play game? Oh my god, shocker. I know.
Brother, what's that?
XDefiant is littered with microtransactions, and although the creators have said that everything you can buy in the game with actual money is purely cosmetic, meaning that you can only spend the game's virtual currency on skins, camos, player animations, and things that most players don't care about, you just know that that's going to come back and bite us, non-paying guys, somehow. I mean, these seemingly uninteresting skins and camos are incredibly expensive, so they had to better increase my chances of winning if I buy them, of course. But Ubisoft didn't pass up the opportunity to put in the Battle Pass, of course, which features a ton of stuff that I don't want. If you don't like microtransactions, Ubisoft somehow found a way to make the experience worse with their mobile game-like UI/UX, Sledgehammer Games. From the opening menu to the store, everything about the graphics looks boring and ugly. I guess they didn't listen to all the complaints. The UI in the game looks like an afterthought, honestly, and I can only hope that enough people see it and complain about it so that it's changed to something less soul-wrenching. XDefiant is not all doom and horror, though. XDefiant's gunplay combines all the things that we love about Call of Duty and Overwatch's gameplay. It's fast-paced, there's a lot of respawning, action, and just good old fun. It feels tight and concise, but also arcadey. There's no recoil on any of the guns, so if you've ever played any recent Call of Duty games, you're going to be able to pick up on the basics of this game right away. The time to kill feels okay, I mean, it's hard to gauge what feels right as I've never been shot multiple times before, but this feels right. And it should be mentioned that while the gameplay feels great, it still has connection issues that Call of Duty has familiarized a lot of us with. It can get choppy. There can be issues with the netcode, hit registry, ping, and all those annoying little things that just drive people crazy. It really pushes them off the edge. And speaking of edge, XDefiant features some character-themed maps that are just, to die for. No kidding, these are some of the most fun maps that I've played in years, and of course, they're really reminiscent of the good old COD days. I'm talking Black Ops good. Credit to the team that's responsible for the maps, they put a lot of thought into them, and it shows. What they did was they lifted the maps from the original games, and then they mixed in some map concepts from Call of Duty, and voila! How thoughtful. You could even say that the difference between good and bad players is map awareness, movement, some level of teamwork, and how fast you can smash the subscribe button on my channel. But there's a good flow, and as someone who's played some of the other Ubisoft titles, I thoroughly enjoyed the maps. It almost felt like I was in the actual game. But we were in a post-apocalyptic era, and we just battled other teams of sixes. Yeah, it's a little unrealistic, but it's still immersive. And yes, XDefiant is 6v6. And get this, all players can play the same class. I pity you if you run into a team filled with the Echelon class that gives the player a UAV every 30 seconds. This, and XDefiant's selling point of no skill-based matchmaking, can make many of the games in any of its beautiful maps feel, well, lopsided and tiresome and very reminiscent of why match MMR exists. Anyways, for those who aren't familiar with SBMM or skill-based matchmaking, it's simply the algorithm's way of pitting equally skilled players against each other in games. The primary goal of SBMM is to create a balanced and competitive gaming experience where all the players have a fair chance of winning. But, experience has shown us that that's not ever the case. SBMM has its pros and cons, and while some other players believe that removing SBMM would make all their problems go away, and by problems, I mean players like this, it didn't quite happen that way. It only separated the strong from the weak and led to a more varied but unbalanced gaming experience. While some players appreciated the diversity and faster matchmaking, others found the lack of balance frustrating, particularly new and lower-skilled players. Now, even though I am the latter, I'm not complaining, I'm not frustrated or anything. I'm just saying, for something that was XDefiant's selling point, you'd think they'd come up with something better than just removing SBMM, you know? Oh wait, no they did. To remedy the lack of SBMM, they used the same game modes as Call of Duty. There's 6 game modes: Escort, Zone Control, Domination, Occupy, Hotshot, and most recently, TDM. My personal favorite is Hotshot, which is a twist on Call of Duty's classic Kill Confirm mode. In Hotshot, players collect dog tags from fallen enemies, and the player with the most dog tags becomes the Hotshot. Now, being the Hotshot gives you a speed boost, similar to Sonic on crack. It's incredibly fun to dash around at high speeds and you just wipe enemies. But the downside, of course, is that the Hotshot is visible to all enemies at all times, so constant movement and accuracy are essential. Or at least having teammates that can protect you. Another reason to keep moving is that the game is rumored to be plagued with cheaters. Cheaters. One of the 3 certainties in life. Death, taxes, and 12-year-olds paying for software that'll ruin it for everybody else.
Fuck them kids. Fuck the kids? Yeah.
The servers and the absence of a kill cam make it kind of hard to discern whether someone's cheating or not. While XDefiant is well-rounded, fun, and free-to-play as an FPS, the disappointing truth is that it lacks any form of identity. If anything, it's a promising mashup of different elements from different FPS games, but these elements lack a conductor that's going to make this Frankenstein-esque FPS dance in harmony. With no identity and an inability to shine in any particular area, XDefiant will die quickly, especially in the competitive and merciless arena that is multiplayer FPS. A slightly better than average COD will completely ruin it, and with the new COD on the horizon, that's really not far-fetched. We applaud Mark Rubin and the remarkable job that he's been doing at the helm. The team wants XDefiant to be a player's game, and they've been communicating and tweaking a lot to reach this goal, but at some point, it's gonna become pandering, you know? But that's where we're gonna turn it to you. Do you think that XDefiant is here to stay, or will it leave discussions as quickly as it came? Let us know in the comments. If you think XDefiant's bad, then you should check out this next video on Call of Duty and where it all went wrong for the OG FPS.